So we have constructed the moving average at the monthly frequency. And next, let's do this at the quarterly frequency, just to reinforce what we learned. So for monthly frequency, we first constructed a calculated column called EoM1. Basically, this column will take a value of 1 for those rows that are the last trading day of a month. Okay, for those rows that are not the last trading day of a month, then this column takes a value of 0. So that with this column, we can basically filter a subset of the historical daily table, which only contains trading days at the end of each month. Okay, so to construct the quarterly frequency moving average, we also need a new calculated column that can indicate which rows are the last trading day of a quarter. Okay, so that's why we're going to go to historical daily and click on this new column, and we're going to paste this code. EoQ1 again. This is very similar to that EoM1. Okay, so we are going to again use the window function based on the current row. We're going to take a block of rows that are in the same quarter as the current row. Okay, and then this is basically what the window function is doing. Okay, then we're going to compare the current row, the date of the current row, with the last trading day of that block of rows we just took out. All right, if the date on the current row is the same as the last trading day in the quarter, then this column called EoQ1 will take a value of 1. Okay, otherwise, well, basically if the current row is not the same as the last trading day of the quarter, then this column will take a value of 0. Okay, so that's how this EoQ1 works. So the first 4 arguments for the window function basically says this function will take a range of rows from the current partition. Okay, and this range of rows start with the first observation of the current partition and ends with the last observation of the current partition. Okay, so what do you mean by the current partition? Again, the current partition is determined by the current row. This is the calculated column, so the value of this column is going to be calculated row by row. So for the current row, if this row is related to Apple on March 8th, 2024, then we can determine what the current partition will be. Okay, because in the window function, we know the partition by argument basically says the partition is based on stock symbol and the year quarter. So if the current row is related to Apple on March 8th, 2024, then the current partition should be regarding the stock symbol should be regarding Apple, and year quarter should be regarding the first quarter of 2024. Okay, because the current date is March 8th, 2024. That's basically says the current quarter should be the first quarter of 2024. Okay, so that will determine what the current partition is. Okay, based on current date or the current row. Say another example: if the current row is related to Apple on September 20th, 2024, then the current partition should be related to Apple in the third quarter of 2024. Okay, so based on the current partition, this window function will take out the entire quarter. Okay, again, using the example, if the current row is September 20th, 2024, then the window function is going to take out the entire quarter related to Apple in the third quarter of 2024. And this quarter, this entire quarter is going to be stored in this variable called window quarter. Okay, then the next step, we're going to use the maxx function to work on this table called window quarter and take out the largest date in that table. Okay, because this window quarter table contains all the rows related to the third quarter of Apple. Okay, so the largest date, of course, is going to be the last trading day in that quarter. Okay, so basically this maxx function is going to return the last trading day of the quarter, of the current quarter, or the current partition. Okay, then we're going to compare the current date with the last trading day of the quarter, and if this condition holds, if this current date equal to the last trading day of the quarter, then this variable r is going to take a value of 1. All right. Otherwise, this r is going to take a value of 0. All right. We're using this if function to first check whether this condition holds or not. Then if this condition holds, then this r is going to take a value of 1. If this condition does not hold, r is going to take a value of 0. That's how this if function works. Okay. The first argument is always this condition we try to check. Okay. And this condition is basically trying to check whether the current date is equal to the last trading day of the quarter. Okay. Eventually, the value of r is going to be returned as a value for this calculated column EoQ1. All right. So this whole exercise is basically trying to retrieve, based on the current date, retrieve the entire quarter, retrieve all the rows in the same quarter as the current row. Okay. Then compare the current row with the last trading day of the quarter. If they're the same, we'll get a value of 1. If they're not the same, we'll get a value of 0 for this calculated column.